great with a mic. So the tool number 3 will be how to actually get the AI to write you these little snippets of code, because the key principle seems to be that whilst I disagree with using LLMs to write code as their best use, we still need these little connector pieces here and there to do little things. And the smaller and more focused you can make your code requirements, the better chance the LLM can provide what you need.
Yeah, and there's a difference between using an LM to write a piece of code one-off and then that's baked, as opposed to asking it to do something live again and again.
Yeah, you mean like making it write code again and again?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we focus on these isolates as a way to get a very distinct unit of functionality that we sort of fret over through a period of months and years to improve the quality, that's a good place to use LLMs to generate code, because 5 iterations on, for example, the requirements that would have been laid out in natural language for what these isolates need to do will be so constraining that it will be difficult for a novice user to come in, identify a need, and fuck the code base up, because the code can't be, so long as you've got these base requirements and you want to add requirements to them, it's almost impossible for you to fuck the code, because it just won't pass all the tests anymore.
Right.
So it's when you give the LLM a blank slate and a novice user the idea that they can write code with these things that it all goes astray.
Nothing. There's no good have ever happened with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But when it's well constrained, I think the success rate is extraordinarily high, because, I mean, if it doesn't pass the test or improve the outcome, what harm was done, really? At least the user got to get in there and scratch an itch and have a play, and at least you can see what they were poking at, so you know more about what they want rather than them just sitting there like a child complaining.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, if I wanted take that search using DuckDuckGo, there'd be a file in here which encapsulated search. You pass in your search term, and you come out with results. Right?
Yeah. So it's sort of there'll probably be a bunch of these things that we have to make, but what I'm noticing, and I'll just you could interrupt me if this is repeating myself. What I'm noticing is that see this example. This was how to log into GitHub. Now, one of the things I did there was I dumped like the whole. I can't find the actual code, I'm sorry, but one of the things I played with was dumping the GitHub docs into the help file, and then only giving the LLM access to basic features, right? Like being able to do HTTP post with a JSON body. And the success rate was, it got it first go without any further fucking around. So it was provided with the docs for accessing GitHub, this fetch isolate, which basically allows it to do posts of a generic form, not like a special thing. And from that, it was able to figure out what was the URL it should make the call into, what data should it put in that call. And so what I'm trying to show here is that even though it may seem like there are many API calls that we need to include here, once we can leverage the LLMs, the actual pieces of traditional code are logarithmic compared to the functionality enhancements, given that the LLMs only need these fundamental tools plus natural language instruction as opposed to code all the time.
So, for example, I could ask an LLM to go search DuckDuckGo for this string, and it would figure out how to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. And then what you might find is that you can decompose that even further, where you would say, here is the DuckDuckGo API documentation, and here is an isolate that allows you to make web requests. I would like to search DuckDuckGo with this string.
Right.
And so the amount of isolate code that you need, I expect to increase logarithmically with the amount of functionality that you gain, because of the fact that the LLMs can reuse these isolates again and again.
Yeah. Okay. How's are the ordering of agents done at the moment? So, say if you wanted one to retrieve something from DuckDuckGo, another one to analyze it, how do you tell the first one to pass the output to the second one?
Give me a second. What is an example of the question you would have asked to cause that?
For example, I want to create let's see, I want to create a newsletter of the top 5 news items in AI this week. So the first thing, I want to return them what the top 5 are using DuckDuckGo. Then I want to have some kind of analysis on it so we don't get repetition, and we can break it down, and then we need to get something to write something out. So there's 3 tasks there. At the moment, I've got Crew AI passing those tasks on. That you've got these agents to go with. There's a lot of chatter backwards and forwards, which is unfortunate. AutoGen does the same thing. You kind of throw it into a group of AIs and they work it out between themselves. So they're apologizing to each other constantly.
Yeah. Okay. So how I would, first of all, I would have expected that request to go via the stuck loop to try and find any pre-vetted, upvoted quality ways to do something that sounds similar. I think the issue with Crew AI and all those other ones is that they come without a library backing them. And so you can't share your GPTs around the place to solve the task at hand, right? So you can't.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So that stuck loop, I know we've been over it a lot, but that is really the getting the stuck loop up, ambient attribution, and this deployed cloud version, and I might even be a happy man. But to answer your question better, let's assume that there's nothing in the stuck loop has occurred or been retrieved. So there would need to be a help file called the planner that would probably write out a plan for what was going to happen, how it was going to solve this task. And then the steps, I would expect them to be broken down into what you described, search, DuckDuckGo, analyze the results for the top 5, summarize results, write them to disk.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it'd be helpful. I'll show you what.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really good. This is very, very helpful, this discussion, because I'm like, we've got all these components.
So this is Streamlit for the output, and instantiate the got 4 agents. The kind of the overall editor is the guy kicking it all off. The news fetcher, which is the search.
Yeah. Okay. This is awesome. This is awesome. So is that in our system? Would you expect to have constructed these agents yourself too?
It would be more helpful if it didn't have to.
Right, but when the system's blank, like, I think the important feature is that you could or you can make. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So I would call an agent a help file.
Yep.
And you would work individually to create these help files that do these tasks, and you would play around with some example inputs to them, and some different prompting.
Yes. Yeah. So ideally,
mate, I'm thrilled to see you using VS Code, I've got to say.
Finally, after all these years.
And even using it remotely as well. Good on you. I bet that was fun, setting that up, wasn't
it? No.
Welcome to hell.
It does work though. So here's this is the crew AI way of doing it. Go and backstory. This is just the session prompt. I've done real short ones, but it would be helpful to be able to. It would probably be quicker. Just to say something like, I want to create a new agent, and it's like, yeah, okay, you got it, or a new help file. What you wanted to do, what's its role? Give it a role, give it a goal, give it a backstory, give it all that stuff in the JSON that you just showed me.
All right, cool. Okay, so in our system, you would make this using one of our natural language tools that would work a way to generate the help file, but it would do it interactively with you, and it would also auto-generate some tests that would try and exercise it and seek your feedback on the results so that it can try and work that backstory better.
Yeah, exactly. And it would prompt me for, I don't know, at this point, as a user, I might not know whether I should allow delegation or not. Max iterations, is 10 good enough? Who knows?
Oh, okay. All right, cool. So if I can just grab the screen off you.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I can answer your question directly. I understand now. There is a format that I have made here. When you see this format, which is some bullshit and then a colon, that represents an isolate file, so a piece of code, and this represents the function in that piece of code. When you see helps / this is a piece of help, and so within your help files you can specify what other help files to make available to the execution of this help. And so to copy your example, this is where you would lay out, if this was like the editor agent, in here is where you would wire it up to say what other agents it had access to. And it will, based on its instructions, it will look at the instructions for each one of those agents to figure out which one to call next and with what parameters.
Yep.
That's how that works. And when you get it back, what you or when the thing is running, what you will see will look a lot like, oh dear, it'll look like this basically. It'll look like a Git history where each agent would be a different color, and you'd see different different merges and different lines of development and all that, and you'd be able to walk through each one and yada yada yada. So
yeah,
that's how that goes.
okay. So let's try a thought experiment. I'm going to go into pass through and I'm going to read out what I've got here. So at first I want to recreate this really quite simple newsletter thing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
Just to check my thinking. So I'll start off by saying, hey, how I want to create a newsletter. I would like an editor to make sure that the quality was high and to coordinate all the other tasks. I need someone to go and fetch the latest news. I'd like the top 5 news items for this week.
Yep. So that would be, we would have made a special class of helpers that was the help builder or the agent builder.
Yeah.
And you would be engaging with that, call it the commissioner for, just lack of a better name. Exactly. And you would be discussing with this commissioner what your needs are, and it would be generating the skeleton of these agents for you.
Yeah. And, what I'd expect is to be able to talk through my thinking. So there's all sorts of ways of making a newsletter, right? But I would like an editor. I'd like someone to go and fetch the news items. I'd like to another agent that will take the top 5 and analyze the contents of it and summarize the contents. And I'd like someone else to dump it into an MD file.
Okay, that sounds like enough information that the commissioner should have determined how many agents you need, and it should have been able to start the process of automatically building them and testing them. And I think that you could make the process go a lot smoother if you started out with the goal in mind, so that it was always as it was building out these agents, you could see it in parallel trying to solve your initial goal that you set out to do, and it would be able to move itself towards that goal independently of the discussion it's currently having with you. Like, you should be able to see it self appraise and self improve, which I think would be like quite a winning feature to be able to watch.
Going out through the help loop to see if anything's already there.
Yeah, right.
And then being something that's close. Maybe there's a search, that uses Google instead of DuckDuckGo or whatever.
Right. And then while you're watching all this sort of build out right in front of you, you can be like, I don't want to use Google. I don't like Google. And it's like, sure.
Yeah.
Right, now, and then you're watching all these things get built in parallel right in front of your eyes. I think that's fucking epic.
Right, and the really useful thing is, in order to get this to work, I had to write out a whole bunch of tasks, which was basically API calls. I don't want to really have to do that. So if I say I need someone, an agent or help to go out and return top 5 for AI news, I'd like it to understand that in order to do that, it needs, an isolate. Let's look for an isolate that does that.
Yep.
If it doesn't, ideally create it.
Right. Have a go at creating it, and then that's where the advertising, if it would come in, where it's like, look, we need this thing, we can keep trying to work around it, but if you put some money against it, it's got a better chance of happening quicker and at higher quality.
Right. But if if it comes back saying, I don't have an isolate for that, having it ask, can we work on it together? It's like, what would you like that isolate to do? Well, I need it to go and fetch. I don't want to use an LLM to do this because that's not really practical. What I want you to do is use the API for DuckDuckGo.
Right.
Here's the sort of prompt I want. That's what you should expect.
Right.
And then, so I can direct. So it can go out if it's stuck and it doesn't exist. The first question is, can I collaborate with you in order to do this instead of wait?
Yep.
And I'll create the isolate. So that's tasks and agents. And the other thing I was going to ask is some of these services need keys.
Right.
For example, I can't remember the name of the service I'm using. Doesn't matter.
That's a great question.
You know, if it's come back saying, yeah, you could use this hypothetically, but you need to go and create an account and get an API key.
So, I got an answer for you there. Yeah. So, whilst what I want to set up is an API library whereby you could go out and make your own account and use it just fine, whatever. I'll have to set aside some way to maintain private data that's super sensitive, like keys. So I'll just need to think about that a bit more. But the long-term solution that I want to implement is an API marketplace where you put in a request for, hey, I want to access this API using the artifact system. And so once one person builds that API and refines it and all that and sets up the keys and the billing, it should be available for anyone else in the network to be able to call using that API key, which is kept private and all that, and the billing's all managed for you. But if you've put your API key into that library, then you can sell at a reasonable markup the access to it so that people who are using the Dreamcatcher don't get jarred by having to go offsite, sign up, get API keys, add them in, fuck around with all that. It's like, well, it's already in the API store. It's tested. It's being used. You can see the usage here. You can use it privately by paying. You can use publicized results that other people have made and then shared with other members of the network. And you can ask for more features in the APIs to be created. And so that's how I want to spread the connectivity to the outside world.
Yeah, because riffing on that, what would be good, it's the right word, is jarring. It's like, you get the little lid thing, and it's like, oh, I don't have any pen. Fuck, okay, right then.
Yeah, right.
Down a rabbit hole that takes 50
minutes. Right, and then it's such a pain. And then, like, if it doesn't work, it's like, fuck, which of the 15 services that I just signed up to in the past 2 hours are at fault, right? And you can't trace them because you've got, like, classic cloud problems. It's like someone else's computer is now talking to another person's computer on your behalf, and you can't intercept the information stream, so you don't even know if it happened, didn't happen, if it was faulty, or what. Whereas the point of fucking Artifact is that you can pull down the whole fucking repo of interactions and see where things were happening. That's kind of the fucking the whole point. But more to that, you've given me a good idea where I see you twiddling around with vector databases like Pinecone and other such things. We could start the API store with like a Pinecone database connection so that you can just start. You don't need to sign up to Pinecone. You can just use the API store, and it just it's right there.
There's quite a few things like that. Well, here's an example, right? DigitalOcean. Basically makes it easy to use AWS and then takes a cut.
Right.
That would be fantastic if you could do the same thing with APIs. With
dude, for so long it is possible with the SDK that AWS gives you lets you programmatically control everything. There is nothing in there that you can't modify with that little kit they give you. The trouble is it's goddamn enormous. So if we could start to develop artifact style ways of commanding AWS infrastructure using natural language and using these agents, then you can start deploying quite powerful auxiliary services just from natural language in a way that's monitored by an LLM for correctness, but also tested and monitored by other people to make sure it's doing what it says it's doing, you know.
Yeah, and again, that scheme I think is going to be really useful. So the journey I had during just this really shitty newsletter thing involved. First of all, I had a stump of some code from some dude on the internet, and it didn't work. And it's like, okay, right, I've got to get the environment set up, so I've got to install a whole bunch of npm or go through pip, get langchain, and that sort of thing set up. And it's like, oh, right, finally. So that was like half a day. And then it's like, okay,
I'm
right.
sorry.
Like...
I'm sorry. I'm like, this is fucking. I'm like, welcome to my fucking life. It's so good to have some company in this misery.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, I want to use Streamlit because that looks quite cool way of doing it, and to expose it on a browser. And so, right, okay, got all of that. So I had to rewrite the code. When I was rewriting the code, I was putting in the base code into the chat GDP and saying I want to use Streamlit for the output, and I was rewriting it, and it's like, it didn't work. Going backwards and forwards with errors, another half day. Copying the error back into ChatGPT, saying you fucked up, man. Do better.
Oh god.
And it's like, here's another error, and eventually it honed it down, and it's going, you need this. So eventually got that, and it's like, okay, now I've got it on the local machine. I want to get it out there on another server that I can give someone else access to. So it's like, right, then now over to DigitalOcean. Okay, spin up an instance, then install Git, get it pulled down. Then you have to go through all the dependencies in order to get those down. And ended up using PyProject TOML for that. That was a complete arse. In order to just get another environment like my laptop that'd already gone through and tried to get it fucking sorted out. And then spin that up. Then there's the environment variables, which were no longer the same as on my laptop. And then finally I've got an instance there, and it's like, oh, that's great. So now I've got to go to a command line and go and run the thing, and then only then it comes up as a browser. Now there's a lot of friction in there. God. What would be awesome is, because I don't want an API key. What I want is search results.
That's right.
I don't want another fucking to have to sign up.
Yeah. So if we go through
and all that kind of thing.
if we go through and basically terraform the world into this nice, ready to go API store where all you got to do is you put your credit card in and it charged you for the usage on the service plus a skim, and you never had to leave our site, and it was.
I think that would be an absolute ball.
Right. And it was up and running. It was security patched because it's sort of not your problem if you choose.
Then there's the whole, because out of the box for some reason DigitalOcean doesn't auto generate you let's encrypt SSL certificate. So there's another hour.
Yeah, right. That's a fucking bunch of shit, and now you're trying to remember this and remember that. Yeah. And so if we can get that API store going, you can really start to smooth the edges on the internet, because you can do everything you just asked from just within your browser. But more importantly, if you want to share it with the world, it's all you got to do is ask Hal to be like, oh, yeah, publish that, please. And then now anybody can find it.
Right. So, for example, and this speaks to the same thing. Okay, so I've gone up through all this thing to create a DigitalOcean droplet that creates a newsletter. Great. Okay, now I want to allow someone else to use it. It's like, my API keys are in there. I'm getting charged for those.
Yeah.
So what would be much better is like here's the endpoint, and we deal with a single billing account,
Yeah, yeah.
and we take a skim. We could even it wouldn't be that hard, would it?
No.
You set up whatever is the cost, add X% onto it,
Mm.
and you don't have to worry about any of
Yeah,
that.
and
It starts to your account.
we just let people insert their own API keys because we're like, well, we run trusted infrastructure. You can insert your API key and make it available to others to use, and you'll get a cut of it. And so we can have 200 API keys sitting there with the requests being sort of split between them
Yeah,
all so that, if there's an issue with one or the other, it just sort of fails over
yeah,
to
yeah.
this other one.
And imagine this is a thing I think you would like. Rate limits. It's like I've got cash. Stop
Mm,
with the fucking rate limits.
right, right. I
So
have
how about
money.
switch between different API keys
Right,
and just bill
right.
me at the
Different
end?
accounts. Yeah, right, right. And then also caching and offline ability. So, you can actually take the results with you when you hop on the plane and still use them because a lot of API results are, they're still valid. They're still
Yeah,
useful. Something's
yeah,
better than nothing. So
yeah,
you can
yeah,
break a lot
exactly.
of that dependency down. And
Yeah,
then furthermore, the usage being public on the API store and the money throughput being auditable and analyzable via LLM means that you incentivize people to build more finely honed or performance services based on where the clear demand is showing.
yeah, 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 absolutely. For example, getting a very chatty bot swarm
Mm,
is an expensive way of doing it. So someone can improve
mm.
it. Yeah, that's money off the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So okay, so we can basically make a nice, easy wrapper around AWS and other services,
yeah,
as
and
well as
all the
API
and all
calls.
the yeah and the any payable API endpoint. Um,
Hmm.
if we were to advertise these services, but didn't even have to advertise because ideally, again, I don't want to know what the service is. I want to talk to an LM saying, um, I like DuckDuckGo. Search
Yeah,
DuckDuckGo for 5 answers, top 5 answers.
that's right. That's
Um,
right. And then it
and I just
makes
want
it
it to happen.
trivial to be like, give me the top 5 search engines on the internet right now, and give me the top 5 results from each of them, and amalgamate them.
Right,
Right.
right, yeah.
Right.
Or
With
give me the top 5 results for any service, and then I want another bot to tell me which is the best one. And
right.
well,
And
right,
then
that's
because it's LLM managed, you could start to develop a almost like a Rosetta Stone, where if the APIs do a similar thing, we would sort of put a proxy in front of it that was maintained by LLM that was sort of gave it the same look, so you could just switch whatever service you wanted with no pain. You're just like,
yeah,
I don't like that to go anymore. I want to switch to Google, and it's just like done.
yeah.
Format's the same, output's the same. It's
I quite
just
like your idea of saying I can turn up as a user and saying, here, I've got this service. I got the free tier. It gives me
yeah,
20,000 calls. I only
yeah,
use 100. I'd like a cent every time someone else
right.
uses it.
Right. And so basically, if there's a brand new service that you've found that you want to use, you should be able to come to the API store and go through the battle of configuring it for yourself. But at the end, the reward is you can, with one simple command, open it up as your own marked up API gateway that you can make money off of too, because you
Yeah,
went through the hassle of setting it up. And now the next guy has none of that pain.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And you don't have to worry about, when did I sign up for that? It was a 14-day trial. I'm about to be
Yeah,
billed
right.
for a year.
Right. And then people can, right, and then people can pay different amounts to get different deals, which allows them to undercut others on our platform
Yeah,
because they bought 2 years worth at a discount, you know.
Right. I'm sure we can also have someone create an isolate that's bound to their API, and then they get a markup not just on the API, but on the outcome of the isolate.
Sorry, I don't understand.
So, say if I had an isolate that did search, I signed up for the year-long, 200,000 token per month thing, and I bind that to an isolate, which is simply going to go and get your search results. Then I can advertise, or that isolate is available, and when that isolate is used itself, it's using my API key, so you never even see the API key.
Oh, right. Yes, you could do it that way. The point of the API marketplace was that is how the services look. So only you see your private API keys, but you present this sort of nice, friendly interface for people to consume. But along with that, we would handle billing, because we'd have the billing relationship, and we just sort of pass the credits around. But we'd also take on the moderation stance, so that the calls would be LLM moderated in a way, so that you could have reasonable trust that your API service wasn't getting abused. And then if you are worried about using the public-facing versions of a particular API, you can always go through the sign-up loop with that provider, bring your own API key, plug it straight into the store using all the isolates and LLM work that others have done to make sure it's stable, and then keep your API key private, and it's just for you. And so you're like, well, I'm just using the Dreamcatcher like my hosting platform with my private keys that go out to this service, but I take advantage of the integration effort and bug fixing that all the other users are doing as well. So
and
that's sounding pretty fucking cool.
It does. The same goes for any AWS service, right? Wouldn't it be great, instead of having to go off to DigitalOcean and set the whole thing up and complete pain in the arse, I could just say, I want to put a server in London that does exactly the same as what's happening on my laptop.
Right.
Boom. Done.
Yeah.
I just get charged for it, and it's like, yeah, I'm okay with that, because it's just
what I wanted.
Hours. Yeah. Anyway, those are the pain points in getting this far, doing it hand cranked. You want to talk about attribution?
Yeah. Before, was that a satisfactory answer on how to wire up agents, where agents are help files and they can call each other? Like now, that part works.
Yes, it was. Let me check. Yes, the only thing I think we didn't go through is it's answered by, if it's completely LLM, which is the order of tasks. So I'd like to say, go off and fetch these results. Then I'd like someone to analyze them, and then I want an empty file out the back.
Yeah, that would. So in that structure, you'd probably have a supervisor that would be going through the top level workflow and delegating tasks out sequentially, one at a time, to each of the workers.
Okay. Then the last thing, and this is the last thing I would do. Say if I was doing this for a client, I would want to keep it isolated from stuff I've done for someone else, and say, right, over to you. I want to now give you this access to this to play around with it, but I don't want you to have access to necessarily, for example,
for other clients.
Yeah, for example, if I was doing a newsletter, I was doing one with AI, one with special needs.
Are you happy to share the agents, or you want it, and it's really just the execution of it that you want to keep separated, or is it
execution? But also, what I want to do is to hand it over to them and saying, right, you talk to the bot and improve these things, but isolated in that. If I've got
so that's just Git repos. So you just they'll just fork the repo that you made, and then they would be able to merge it back in if they made good improvements or pull from you.
Right.
And that would be LLM based, where the LLM would be like, hey, there's been some modifications to the agent swarm that you're looking at. Let me walk you through them. I've taken the liberty of running some of the tests against them, and they look good to me.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that answers it.
Okay, and then that would be the same as for keeping instances or invocations of the agent swarm segregated from one another. They are a branch also in Git, and so the Git permissioning model applies to them as well. So you've got the permissioning model for the help files themselves, and you've also got the same permissioning model for the execution of each one as well.
Grand. Yeah, that works.
And the idea is, and I'm starting to suspect we may need a generalized license for the whole platform that's like a remixable license, so that if you see something that someone shared, you should be able to just take it and fork it to play with it and do as you please without, being like, oh, what's this license? Like it's kind of like just...
Yeah, for sure.
Get in there and go.
Yeah, because who cares? As long as everyone trusts the platform.
Yeah, trust the platform. That's the main one.
That's table stakes, right? That's the decision you make. And these are the rules.
Okay. Well, this is sounding pretty cool. Can I have a look at your VS Code setup? I think I can help you out some.
Yeah, sure. Hold on a second. Let me get it back up.
Did you know that VS Code is running the Chrome? This is the Chrome browser here.
I did not know that.
If you hit, I think it's Control on Windows. It's Control-Shift-I to bring up the Dev Tools. You can actually bring up the Dev Tools in VS Code because this is just the Chrome browser. But anyway,
It's not working.
Now, you do not have GitHub Copilot.
No, because I got challenged saying, do you want to install GitHub Copilot? And it was like, oh, not another fucking thing to sign up to.
You should get that if you get nothing else. That is the tool. Have you used it before?
No.
Okay, you should.
Where's the things?
Down one more.
Plugins.
Yep. No. Where it says 4, that one with the little boxes. Yep.
That's it. Yeah,
GitHub Copilot. Okay.
Yeah, installed it and then didn't actually activate it.
You need that.
All right.
You have to pay $10 a month for it. You should pay it.
Another $10 a month.
Yeah, I know, dude. But this is the one. Like, if you are doing code. Look at that. A free trial.
For any payment details due today. Do you already have okay, I probably shouldn't do this on video.
I would. I know you probably.
It's just
login fatigued. You're like account fatigued, whatever. But this thing is the one tool that I cannot code without it.
Right. What does it do?
Let me show you. This was actually the innovation that got me into LLMs in the first place when this thing came out. So I'm in some code, right? And I start typing. See the addition that came up here?
Yep.
Although that's completely useless. I was gonna type that. That is GitHub Copilot.
All right, so it's all right. It's like other Copilot, so it's effectively helping you auto complete.
It auto completes and it does a fucking brilliant job. It can also do if I say with my hotkey, I just say explain, and then it says.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so it tells you what's going on. If I make an error, it's kind of weird. I would expect my editor to be like, if I make an error, so I might have a strange. Right, so that the squiggly line indicates an error, and I might just be like, I don't know what the fuck that is, right? Because that's easy to do in code. You're like, I don't know why it's wrong, but you can say fix using Copilot, and then it will propose the diff there, which is like, okay. Now that's very trivial, but if I like, there's some more subtle ones that can show up. And you're like, hey, fix using Copilot, and then it just kind of figures out the best thing for you, or you can ask it questions about the code. You're like, why this, why that? You can highlight some code and be like, refactor this to be shorter.
Okay. There's
brilliant.
One thing that was a complete pain in the fucking arse.
Pain in the titties.
Which is the let me see. I'm going to pull it. Go into the files. Yeah. Oh wait. Damn it. Yeah. So the thing that costs most time is using Crew AI, LangChain, Streamlit, that sort of thing. So these are all environment squiggles. So it's like, we don't know about Streamlit. It's like, I've told you about fucking Streamlit. I've installed Streamlit. It's like, why don't you know Streamlit? I'm guessing that this is all this autocomplete is inside of the code base, but that doesn't look at the environment that you're running
in. It does know a bit about the environment. Yeah, it's surprisingly good. It's very, very aware, and it can be significantly faster than copying stuff to GPT-4 and then being like, why no work, and then come back. All that stuff.
It never works first time. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if there was, I feel your pain about the login thing. Just please use Copilot. You will be so much better for it.
Right, I'll get that set up after this.
Cool.
Tech tips.
Don't learn to code.
No, I'm trying not to. In fact, all of this code here has either been pulled from someone's repo as a base, or chat has updated it. So
I'm very grateful. I'm pleased for your suffering that you experienced how bad it is, but you can see clearly the hurdles for adoption that we aim to overcome here. And if you could just achieve the same thing in just the browser with plain text.
Oh man, that's well, DigitalOcean's made $1 billion business out of simply making it less shitty than AWS.
That's all you got to do, right? And if we're sitting there being like, we're going to unshitty the internet, and you're never going to have to learn to code. You just got to fucking... And it's like, that API marketplace becomes like, Stack Overflow on steroids, because it's like asking for actual code, paying money for an isolate to be built.
Yeah, exactly.
and a single billing arrangement, you know, with spend controls so that you can't just fucking blow through thousands of dollars by accident. Like, yeah. So anyway, fuck man, I'm feeling nothing but guilty because it's just the lumpy problems that the blockchain set out to solve. They turned out to be here too. As soon as I started trying to do it properly, as in like at scale, with safety, with permissions and all that, and so I'm hitting a lot of the old problems that that Interpulse was built to solve, and so I had to re-implement some of that finer detail that I was hoping to skip. But it's I think I've done a reasonable trade of being shitty. Sorry, what was that?
That must have been fun. Yeah.
No, it was the opposite of fun. It was like I just this fucking shit. I'm so over it. But yeah, slowly but surely, the operation of the platform is rising, and my fears, or the things where I think there'll be a bit of a tussle to be had, is being able to do a huge number of parallel calls. Will probably have some bottlenecks that I can't see yet. So, for example, being able to do 10,000 AI calls in a burst might, it might be actually we can only do 1,000. Like, it won't be a catastrophic fail. It'll be a tuning issue.
I wouldn't over-index on that because the performance I'm getting out doing serial, just doing, again, this newsletter thing. I've got another one where there's a prompts box, but it's similar. It's taking 5-6 minutes coming back.
Oh, yeah. So this is So the use case I'm chasing the most is basically database queries and large bulk inserts and things like that. That's because I'm like, if we can do those, you can do anything. Like, nothing's gonna stand in your way. So but on the plus side, the code coverage is looking fucking top notch. So I just wanted to show the pretty graph because I don't have anything else to show. This is the coverage of the code base right now. It's actually really fucking good.
Fucking hell, I've never seen that kind of level.
Yeah, I know, right?
Above 9%.
Yeah,
it's like the unicorn you're always chasing.
I know, because it's all it's like ultra terse and like very, very compact, and so it makes it easy to test the whole system because there's no bits that don't really belong. So
that is lovely.
It's pretty good, right?
No, I appreciate the aesthetics of that graph.
Yeah. So that's coming along nicely. That gives me good confidence. What else am I worried about? No, that's it. Actually, I just should stop being a bitch and just get on with it. Yeah. Yep.
Well,
okay.
On this side, a couple parish notices we might want to close off the recording.
Okay.